The deception of weakness. High Admiral Jorexval stood on the command deck of the Eternal Glory, flagship of the Voltorian Empire's 3rd Expeditionary Fleet. His 6 eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display showing the approaching human vessels. The small ships appeared almost laughable against the backdrop of stars. Tiny specks compared to the massive Voltorian warships that had conquered 17 star systems in the last cycle alone. Is this truly what the humans send to greet us? Jorex asked, mandibles clicking in amusement. These miniature vessels. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Nira, tilted her head, her scales catching the light. Intelligence suggested the humans were resourceful. Admiral, perhaps this is merely a diplomatic envoy. Diplomatic. Jorex snorted, the sound echoing through his breathing apparatus. Our scans detect weapons signatures. No, this is their idea of a defensive fleet. The tactical display zoomed in on the human ships. There were perhaps 30 of them, each barely a quarter the size of the smallest Voltorian cruiser. Their hulls appeared primitive, angular, with visible welding seams and what looked like retrofitted propulsion systems. The Voltorian officers exchanged glances of disbelief. Tactical assessment, Jorex commanded. The weapons officer, Krell, responded immediately. Their vessels employ outdated fusion drives. Weapons appear to be standard railguns and primitive energy weapons. No quantum shielding detected. Estimated survival time against our fleet, 3 minutes, maximum. Laughter rippled across the command deck. Even Nira, usually stoic, allowed herself a small smile. And these are the creatures that have been expanding so aggressively through the Oran Spur. Jorex waved a dismissive hand. The intelligence reports must have been exaggerated. The reports did mention their tenacity, sir, Nira reminded him. Tenacity is worthless without proper technology, Jorex replied. Open a communication channel. Let us inform these humans of their situation before we annihilate them. The communications officer quickly established a link. A moment later, the image of a human appeared on the main screen. The creature was small, with pale skin and only 2 eyes. It wore what appeared to be a uniform, blue with silver insignia. This is Fleet Captain Elena Reyes of the United Earth Defense Force, the human said, voice steady. You have entered Earth-controlled space. State your intentions. Jorex stepped forward, towering in the visual frame. I am High Admiral Jorexval of the glorious Voltorian Empire. Your species has expanded too close to our territories. The High Council has determined you require correction. The human showed no fear, which Jorex found mildly interesting. Admiral Vol, we have no quarrel with the Voltorian Empire. We request diplomatic. Diplomacy is for equals, Jorex interrupted. You are not our equals. Your ships are primitive. Your weapons archaic. Surrender now, and we will consider allowing your species to exist as a protectorate of the Empire. Captain Ray's expression remained neutral. We respectfully decline your offer, Admiral. Humans prefer self-determination. Then you prefer extinction, Jorex replied. You have 1 standard hour to reconsider before we open fire. He signaled for the communication to end. The human's face disappeared from the screen. Prepare all weapons systems, Jorex ordered. We will make an example of these humans. Sir, Nira ventured, perhaps we should observe them first. Study their tactics. Jorex waved dismissively. What tactics could they possibly have? Their ships are toys compared to ours. The hour passed quickly. The human fleet remained in position, making no attempt to flee or to call for reinforcements. Their behavior puzzled some of the junior officers, but Jorex saw it as resignation to their fate. Time's up, he announced. Target their command vessel and fire. The Eternal Glory's main cannon charge, its purple energy building to a crescendo before unleashing a devastating beam toward the human flagship. To everyone's surprise, the small vessel executed a rapid roll, avoiding the shot entirely. They're faster than they look, Krell observed. Irrelevant, Jorek said, "All ships, open fire. Destroy them." The Voltorian fleet unleashed a barrage of energy weapons and plasma torpedoes. The space between the fleets lit up with destructive power that should have annihilated the human ships instantly. But something unexpected happened. The human vessels moved with incredible agility, weaving through the barrage with precision that seemed impossible for their bulky designs. A few were hit and exploded spectacularly, but most survived, breaking formation and scattering in what appeared to be a panicked retreat. "They're fleeing," Krell announced, though his tone carried a note of uncertainty. "Pursue and destroy," Jorek commanded. "Do not let them escape." The massive Voltorian warships surged forward, their engines glowing as they gave chase. The humans were heading toward a nearby asteroid field, a desperate move that Jorek saw as further evidence of their inferiority. His ships could easily navigate such obstacles. "They think they can hide," he sneered. "Pathetic." As the human fleet disappeared among the asteroids, Nira approached Jorek privately. "Sir, this feels rehearsed. Explain." "Their movements are too coordinated for a panicked retreat. And why flee to an asteroid field where our superior maneuverability gives us an advantage?" Jorek considered her words. "You think it's a trap?" "I'm not certain, but—" "Scan those asteroids," Jorek commanded suddenly. "Full spectrum." The science officer worked frantically at his station. "Sir, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures throughout the field. They're faint, but—" "Halt the fleet," Jorek roared. It was too late. The leading Voltorian cruisers had already entered the outer edge of the asteroid field. Suddenly, multiple asteroids split open, revealing massive cannon emplacements that had been completely hidden from sensors. Before the Voltorian ships could react, blinding beams of energy erupted from these hidden fortresses, slicing through the advanced hulls of two cruisers as if they were made of paper. "Evasive maneuvers," Jorek bellowed as chaos erupted on the command deck. "How did we not detect those weapons?" "They're using some kind of stealth technology," Krell shouted above the alarms. The cannons were completely shielded until they activated. Another Voltorian ship exploded as a beam struck its engine core. The human fleet, meanwhile, had regrouped and was now executing a coordinated attack pattern, targeting the Voltorians' propulsion systems with surprising precision. "They're not primitive at all," Nira realized aloud. This was an act. Jorek watched in growing horror as the tactical display showed more hidden weapons activating throughout the asteroid field. The humans had transformed what appeared to be a natural feature into an elaborate death trap. His mighty fleet was now caught between the asteroid-mounted cannons and the suddenly aggressive human ships. "It was all deception," Jorek whispered, understanding flooding through him. "Their ships, they're not what they appear to be." As if confirming his suspicion, several of the human vessels suddenly shed outer hull plating, revealing sleek, advanced designs underneath. The discarded plating had been nothing but camouflage, making their ships appear bulky and primitive. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human commander," the communications officer reported. Captain Rice appeared on screen again, her expression still calm, but now with a hint of steel in her eyes. "Admiral Vol, perhaps you'd like to reconsider your assessment of humanity's capabilities. This is only a small demonstration." "You deceived us," Jorek accused, fury building in his voice. "We showed you what you expected to see," Rice corrected. "Your intelligence told you we were primitive, and your arrogance prevented you from questioning that assumption." Another Voltorian ship exploded in the background. Jorek's 4 hearts pounded in his chest. Half his fleet was already disabled or destroyed, and they hadn't even managed to confirm a single human casualty. "What do you want?" he asked, all pretense of superiority gone. "Right now, your surrender," Rice replied. "After that, genuine diplomatic relations. Humanity has no interest in conquest, Admiral. But we will not be conquered either." Jorek looked around his command deck, seeing the fear in his officer's eyes. The mighty Voltorian Empire, which had subjugated countless species across multiple sectors, had just been outmaneuvered by a supposedly inferior race. The humans hadn't just demonstrated superior technology. They'd revealed a mastery of psychological warfare that was truly frightening. "Your response, Admiral," Captain Rice prompted. "We can continue this battle if you prefer, but I don't recommend it. Those orbital cannons haven't even reached half-powered yet." As another Voltorian cruiser went dark, its systems overloaded by a precision strike from one of the human vessels, Jorix knew he was witnessing the beginning of a new era, one where the Voltorian Empire would no longer reign supreme. "Hold your fire," he ordered finally, his voice barely audible over the alarms. We will discuss terms." The human captain nodded, satisfaction evident in her expression. "A wise decision, Admiral. Perhaps there's hope for our species to find common ground after all." As the transmission ended, Jorix turned to Nira, whose expression mirrored his own shock. "How did we misjudge them so badly?" "We saw what we wanted to see," Nira replied softly. "And they knew exactly how to use that against us." Outside the viewport, the lights of battle began to fade as both sides ceased fire. The stars shone indifferently on the scattered remains of Voltorian ships, grim monuments to the price of underestimation. The battle was over. The real challenge was just beginning. The price of underestimation. The meeting chamber aboard the neutral station Concordia held an atmosphere thick with tension. On one side sat High Admiral Jorix Fall and 3 surviving Voltorian commanders, their massive forms awkward in seats designed for multiple species. Across from them, Captain Alina Rice led the human delegation, accompanied by 2 military officers and a diplomatic envoy. Jorix couldn't help but study the humans with new eyes. They were physically unimpressive, small, soft-bodied creatures with no natural armor and limited sensory capacity. Yet they had devastated half his fleet with minimal casualties of their own. The paradox infuriated and fascinated him in equal measure. "Let's establish the terms clearly," Captain Rice began, her voice measured. "The Voltorian Empire will acknowledge Earth's sovereignty over all currently claimed human territories. You will withdraw your military presence from the Orion Spur completely." "Preposterous." Commander Thex, one of Jorix's officers, bristled. "You ambush our fleet and expect us to cede an entire sector." "We defended ourselves against an explicitly announced attack," Rice corrected calmly. "Your admiral gave us 1 hour before promised extinction." Jorix raised a hand to silence Thex. "Your deception was comprehensive, Captain. Those were not truly your warships, were they?" A small smile played at the corners of Raya's mouth. "They were exactly what you saw. Older model vessels from our early expansion period. We simply added some theatrical elements. And the hull plating that was discarded. Retrofitted armor designed to make our ships appear less advanced than they are," replied one of the human officers, a broad-shouldered man with dark skin. "Standard procedure when encountering potentially hostile new species." Jorix's inner eyelids blinked rapidly, a sign of agitation among his kind. "You anticipated our attack." "We anticipated someone's attack," Rice said. "Humanity learned long ago that appearing weak invites aggression. But appearing weak while being strong provides tactical advantages." The implications stunned Jorix. How many other species had made the same mistake he had? How many had underestimated these humans and paid the price? "The orbital weapons," he pressed. "Our scans detected nothing until they activated." The human diplomatic envoy, an older female with silver hair, leaned forward. "Phase-shifted technology. The emplacements exist partially out of sync with normal spacetime until activated. It's quite energy-intensive, but effective against conventional scanning methods." Jorix exchanged glances with his officers. Such technology was theoretical in Voltorian science, yet these humans spoke of it as established technology. Now, Rice continued, regarding reparations for the unprovoked attack. "Wait," Jorix interrupted. Before we proceed further, I must understand. If you possess such advanced technology, why maintain the facade of primitive ships? Why not simply demonstrate your strength openly? The silver-haired diplomat answered, Admiral, has your species ever encountered the Krull Collective? The question caught Jorex off guard. Yes. A minor species we assimilated 3 cycles ago. They resisted briefly but were unremarkable. We encountered them as well, she said, but our approach was different. When they detected our advanced ships, they immediately devoted all resources to weapons development, fearing extinction at our hands. We nearly had a devastating war because our obvious strength triggered their survival instinct. So you hide your capabilities as a peace strategy? Nira asked incredulously. Partially, Rise acknowledged. But it's also practical. Not every problem requires showing your full hand. Sometimes, appearing harmless prevents conflict altogether. Jorex struggled to comprehend this philosophy. In Voltorian culture, strength was displayed proudly, used to intimidate and establish dominance. The idea of deliberately appearing weaker than one was seemed pathologically self-destructive. Your species is difficult to understand, he admitted. We get that a lot, the dark-skinned officer said with a small laugh. The diplomatic discussion continued for hours. Maps were consulted, boundaries redrawn, and agreements drafted. Through it all, Jorex found himself increasingly intrigued by these humans. They negotiated firmly, but not vindictively. They sought security guarantees but offered fair terms in return. They could have pressed their advantage further after such a decisive victory, yet they seemed genuinely interested in establishing peaceful relations. During a brief recess, Jorex approached Captain Reyes privately as she stood by a viewport, gazing at the stars. Your trap was masterfully executed, he said, the admission difficult but necessary. I've commanded fleets for 40 cycles, yet I've never encountered such strategy. Reyes turned to him. Up close, he noticed fine lines around her eyes and a small scar on her jawline. It wasn't personal, Admiral. We've simply learned that it's better to be underestimated than overestimated. But the resources required. Those orbital platforms must have taken years to position and disguise. You couldn't have known we would attack at that specific location. A knowing look crossed her face. Who said we were targeting you specifically? Those defense networks exist throughout human space. You just happened to find one. The implication sent a chill through Jorex's exoskeleton. The entire sector could be riddled with hidden weapons platforms, all invisible until activated. The Voltorian Empire had grossly miscalculated not just human technology, but their strategic foresight as well. There's something I still don't understand, Jorex said. If you knew we were coming, why not warn us away? Why allow us to attack? Would you have believed any warning? Rise asked simply. Jorex wanted to argue but couldn't. His pride would have interpreted any human warning as fear, any attempt at peace as weakness. No, he admitted. I would not have. Sometimes, she said quietly, the only way to establish respect is to demonstrate why it's deserved. When the negotiations resumed, Jorex approached them with a new perspective. By the time the final agreements were formalized, the Voltorian Empire had recognized human territorial claims, established trade protocols, and most significantly, agreed to joint scientific ventures. As the human delegation prepared to depart, Jorex requested a final word with Captain Reyes. Your species remains an enigma, he told her. You have the power to expand aggressively, yet you choose restraint. You could have destroyed our fleet entirely, yet you offered surrender terms. Reyes studied him thoughtfully. Humanity had its own imperial phase centuries ago, Admiral. We nearly destroyed ourselves before learning that conquest creates only temporary empires. Cooperation builds permanent ones. The High Council will not easily accept these terms, Jorex warned. They will when they review the battle footage, she replied with certainty. But more importantly, they'll recognize the opportunity. The Valtorian Empire has conquered 17 systems recently. How much have you actually learned from them? The question struck Jorex like a physical blow. In truth, the Empire stripped conquered worlds of resources and subjugated their inhabitants. The vast knowledge and unique perspectives of those species were largely ignored. Technology isn't just about weapons and ships, Rice continued. It's about ideas. Humanity doesn't need more territory. We need more understanding. That's our true expansion. As they parted ways, Jorex found himself contemplating a radical notion. Perhaps the Valtorian Empire's approach to galactic dominance had been fundamentally flawed all along. 6 months later, Jorex stood before the High Council, concluding his report on the first joint human-Valtorian scientific expedition. The human methods of quantum entanglement have applications we never considered, he explained. Their approach to bioengineering relies on principles our scientists overlooked, and their artificial gravity technology operates on half the energy requirements of our own. And they shared these technologies freely. Grand Counselor Draz asked skeptically. In exchange for our advancements in stellar cartography and radiation shielding, Jorex confirmed. The exchange benefits both species. You've grown fond of these humans, Draz observed, not bothering to hide his distaste. I've grown respectful of them, Jorex corrected. There is a difference. After the council session, Nira, now promoted to commander, joined him in the observation lounge overlooking the capital city. The diplomatic corps reports increasing human activity in the Mira sector, she informed him. 3 new colonies established in the past month. Let them expand, Jorex said, surprising her. They're not our enemies. You sound certain of that. Jorex turned to face his former second-in-command. Do you know what Captain Rice told me before we departed the peace conference? She said that throughout human history, their greatest achievements came not from conquering their enemies, but from turning enemies into allies. You believe this is possible between our species? I believe, Jorex said thoughtfully, that underestimating them once was costly enough. I won't make the same mistake regarding their capacity for peace. On his personal console, Jorex had received a message that morning, an invitation to Earth for a diplomatic summit. Attached was a personal note from Captain Rice. Sometimes the strongest position is the willingness to extend a hand rather than raise a weapon. The Valtorian Empire had ruled through fear and dominance for millennia. But as Jorex contemplated the human invitation, he wondered if perhaps they had something to teach his people about a different kind of strength, one that didn't require enemies to prove its worth. As he drafted his acceptance, Jorex reflected on how thoroughly humanity had upended his understanding of power. They had defeated his fleet not just with superior technology, but with superior thinking, anticipating his assumptions and using them as weapons more effective than any cannon. The greatest deception hadn't been the fake ship designs or the hidden weapons platforms. It had been the fundamental misconception that technological advancement always manifested in obvious ways, in bigger ships, more powerful weapons, or more intimidating displays. Humans had learned something the Valtorians had forgotten. True power lies not in what your enemies see, but in what they don't. And as their ships had demonstrated so effectively, appearances could be deceiving indeed.